Cutter, what up, man?
What's up, APT? What's going on?
Yo, man, I got a problem.
What's that?
I got these two girls I'm seeing, right?
Uh-huh.
They're both just so good to me. I can't decide which one I should be with.
Man, I'm going through the same thing, man. I got two girls that'll do anything for me.
Oh, boy.
It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. And I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one. Yo, I got a hot chick living on the north side. I got a hot chick living on the south side. I got a problem cause I can't tell who to choose. They both seem like they both down to ride or die. My north side chick love to cook a brother grub. My south side chick love to give me back rubs. My north side chick down to pay your brother's tab. My south side chick always down for touch and grab. My north side chick knows how to ride the stick. My south side chick love to drive me in the whip. My north side chick loves to get all freaky. Yeah. My south side chick loves to get all freaky. Woo! They both like dress up and don't give a crap if their hair gets messed up. This is my confession. I'm just about ready to settle down, but I can't decide who I'm supposed to choose now. Oh! It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. And I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one. Oh!
I got a hot chick living on the east side. I got a hot chick living on the west side. I got an issue, I don't know who to choose. They like me and I like them both too. My east side chick is a white girl. My west side chick is a black girl. My east side chick likes to have sex. My west side girl got some big breasts. My east side chick freaky as she wanna be. My west side chick always protecting me. My east side chick take away all my stress. My west side chick, she don't take no mess. They both so mature, they both so gorgeous. I like both of them cause they not boring. But let me slow it down, I can only choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta pick one. It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one.
Hey yo, I tried to be a player, but the truth is, a brother never ever been this ruthless. And if they ever find out I would do this, I'd probably end up with a broken jaw, toothless.
I used to do the same thing a long time ago, but it's time for me to let that player stuff go. Cause I got two hot girls just to choose from. Yo, how you gonna decide which one to lose, son?
Man, both girls got different stuff about in my life, but I gotta dump one tonight, cause it just seems right.
I know what you mean, I want both girls in my life, but it would be wrong to have two girls for a wife.
Oh man, what are we supposed to do?
When you got two good girls, how do you choose?
I don't know, it shouldn't be as hard as this.
And if we choose the wrong one,
we'll all be pissed. Oh! It might sound crazy, baby, believe me. Got two hot ladies, they both loving me. And I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. But I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. Yo, I gotta choose one, man, I can't choose one. I can't have them both, so I gotta choose one. Oh!
Yeah. We're gonna have to dump one of them, man.
I know, man, it's gonna be hard, yo.
Well, I don't know. You figure out who you gonna get rid of.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have my conversation on this side, man.
Alright, man. I hate to be the heartbreaker, though.
I'll call you tomorrow, see what's up.
That sounds good. Take care, man.
Alright. Peace.
We don't need all these cops. We don't need no Billy Club. Y'all done enough.
No justice, no peace. No racist, no peace.
Enough is enough. people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined borders, and enough people believed it to make it true. Somebody imagined police, and enough people believed it to make it true. So we have to be the diviners of change, the disruptors of truth. We must imagine differently.
We have to stop the nonsense and take back our community, and we have to police ourselves. Fight like Ali for your life.
This event has been deemed an unlawful assembly. You need to disperse to the east now. Failure to comply with this lawful order may subject you to arrest and forced to
System of policing has got to go.
Say her name! Say her name! Who looks like they're dressed for a riot? Us or them?
Our lives matter. Black lives matter.
It could have been me. It could have been you. It could have been anybody out here, man.
One injustice, one place is an injustice in every place. And we got to come together.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Introvert Dating Success Show, courtesy of introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about a really big question and situation that I think a lot of men these days in particular are having to face with, with the way 2020 is. And, there's been a lot of advancements in the world in terms of like the positions that women have and whatnot. And so that begs the question, what are women really looking for in terms of what they're attracted to? Are women really all the same in terms of the things that they like or dislike? And then what are things that you could be doing that are scientifically shown to actually be masculine traits that women find attractive time and time again? And honestly, part of this is brought up because there was a show I did on Friday where I forget what the show was about at the time, but I gave advice at some point to men about communication style and how expressing certain things in certain ways could be seen as womanly. And there was a person in the chat comments that said that they were kind of offended by that, and that how could I, what was wrong with something being womanly, and what was wrong with a guy displaying certain traits that would be feminine, but that doesn't mean that they're less of a man or whatnot. And so, I answered a little bit of that on the show, but I didn't really get to dive as deep as I wanted to about that because it was the end of the show. And so I kind of want to go over that today. I want to go over a bit of my story and what my experience was as a guy who back in the day was displaying a lot of feminine type of traits and what effect that had on my dating life. And then from there, I'm going to go into various studies that I looked up over the weekend that indicate what kinds of things women are actually attracted to, and that has been shown and proven. So it's going to be a lot to cover today. So as always, first of all, for more of these shows, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can find this podcast on iTunes as well as Spotify, Google Play, wherever podcasts can be listened to. You can also catch this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at protestparty.tv. If you like the advice that you hear here, I recommend that you leave a nice little tip for us. You can you can go there to get merchandise. Also, if you have any particular topics that you'd want answered on this show or talked about, this is your show. So you can write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. You can go to the website, click on the contact tab, and I'll get your message that way. Also, if you're an introverted guy that's looking for one-on-one coaching and maybe needs some extra guidance from an outside source who's an expert at this kind of thing, then you can go to the website, click on the coaching tab, and we can set up a time for me to assist you in your dating life. All right. Also, go there to check out some of our really good ebooks. I got an ebook on how to get your ex-girlfriend back. I got an ebook all about the right and wrong ways to text. And I got an ebook that is just a complete layout of all the things that you should not be doing if you actually want to keep a woman in your good graces. All right. So a lot of great stuff at the website. And of course, as always, protestparty.tv is a great place to go as well to be on the chat stream with us. You can go there and you can chat and leave comments, and I'll occasionally look at the chat stream and comment on stuff that I think is relevant to the show. But yeah, a lot of good stuff that you can interact with us in that way. So let's go ahead and talk about this first part, which is what women actually find attractive and what it means when I say things like, okay, doing this thing is going to demonstrate a masculine trait versus doing this thing, which is more feminine and thereby not as effective because women aren't going to like this. Okay. So I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of my story. For those of you that have been longtime listeners of my various podcasts, including this one, or have read my book, No Girls for You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams, then you'll probably know a little bit of this already because I mentioned it in those things. But this is going to be able to help give a better, deeper dive into kind of my philosophy and thoughts on things. So as I mentioned on the show before, when I was 9 years old, my father died of cancer. And so as a result of that, when my dad died, it was my mom, me, and my brother. And my mom is one of 6 siblings. She has 3 other sisters. And 2 of those sisters actually came to live with us for a year and a half. One, because my mom was distraught, and also because she needed help being able to take care of us while she was going through what she was going through, and just like we were going through our own stuff. So I'd say from the time I was 9 up until I got into college, the majority of influences that I had around me personally were mostly women. And this wasn't like happenstance. Like, it wasn't like my mom was intentionally trying to do that. And there were still situations where she was able to, bring positive male influences into our lives, whether it was some of our uncles, whether it was my grandfather at times. But for the most part, it was my mom, it was my various aunts, my various women cousins, my grandma. Like, there were a lot of influences that were around, but they are mostly women. And so, and this is just something I have, but this is why to this day, I get really annoyed when I hear women say things like, oh, well, I'm a single mom or whatever, but I can raise a boy just like a man can. I can tell you from personal experience that that is not going to be true. And that's not to say that a mom's parenting style or woman's parenting style for a boy is going to be bad. But what it says is there is a missing component there that when there's not a man around, they miss out on. And then there's parts of their development that they don't latch onto, they don't know. So I'll give you a perfect example of this, okay? Because my mom has told me this story. When I was 14 years old, my mom says, I came to her one day and I asked her, I said, hey, where do men hold their money? Because I noticed that women have purses and little like change purses and stuff, and they put their money and all this other stuff in there that they want to carry around. But I aside from just having pockets, I assume men carry their money in something, but I don't know what that is. And so to most guys that are listening to this, you're thinking, well, men carry their money in wallets. That's pretty obvious. But for a mom who's trying to do the best she can with sons and try not to, have all this grief and stuff and trying to raise them, women are typically going to look after things like, are they cared for? Are they protected? Are they getting the best education, etc.? But they don't really have the immediate know-how to know what man lessons they need to survive. So something as simple as like needing a wallet. My mom didn't even think to teach me that because why would she? She carries a purse, and it's just a thing you assume a guy would just naturally get, but you don't think about this is something that at some point a guy doesn't know about. They don't know about wallets. They don't know about shaving. They don't know about these various things that are going to solidify them as men to the outside world. So as this pertains to dating, because I was around a lot of women, what resulted was that unconsciously, there were a few mannerisms and styles of speaking that I picked up that to other women, I got along with women great because, but it was actions that were feminine. So, for example, the way I stood, like the certain way that I stood, whether it was I had my hand on my hip like this occasionally or whatever, or leaning to the side, or doing certain types of hand movements when I talked, or occasionally talking in a dialect that, unbeknownst to me, was actually more of a feminine tone than a masculine tone. These are things that I was not aware I was doing. And again, my mom, as lovely as she was not aware that these were lessons that I was getting as a result of being around all these women. Now, again, there might be women that see this and say, well, that should be no problem because, ultimately, if you're a kind person and you're a gentle person or whatever, then women should just care for you. And that should be ideal. But there's a great quote, I think it's like Anne Ryan or whatever somebody's name is, but it's a very popular quote, which is that basically like, it says, man is free to choose not to be conscious, but not free to escape the penalty of unconsciousness, which is destruction. Meaning that I think a lot of times women are very well-meaning in saying that you can be a guy that's more in tune with your emotions and you can be a guy that expresses a little more femininity and it's okay. And how dare you say that it's not? And as a guy, I could, my reality has been when I've expressed those things, I haven't got good results. So I could ignore that and say, no, I'm going to, not worry about being this guy that's a little more feminine and doing whatever. But the reality of that is that women typically aren't as attracted. So for example, let's take conversation. Times where I would talk in a manner where I'd be able to express things from all sides. Like if there's a topic of discussion, I could go about and consider all sides and angles of things and discuss them. Or if there was a decision that needed to be made about something, rather than just make a decision, I could say, well, we could do this thing, but on the other hand, we could do this thing also. And then, this person will feel that way about this if we do it this way. And then this other person will feel this kind of way. So I see how on both sides of this thing, whatever. And that method of communication is great for communal talk, which is what women do, because in the terms of them talking to each other, they typically want the group consensus before they decide to come up with a solution. But that's not really a trait that exudes masculinity, because per what most women believe, or most women feel, I'll say, is that a guy that's more decisive and able to come to a decision without having to have all that extraneous talk is typically going to be one that looks more like a leader and a decision maker. So when I was trying to communicate in the style that typically women do, I was, again, friendly and I was able to talk to them, but I wasn't attracting any women, Another example, back in the day, I went to a private school in my last 2 years of high school where they expressed that they wanted men to be clean shaven. Okay. So what that taught into me was that, women want a guy that's nice, well, and clean shaven, doesn't have any facial hair. They look a lot more trustworthy. And so therefore I went beyond high school. When I went to college, I was still like regularly shaving my face because I was like, if women want to find me attractive, then I'm going to have to shave my face because they want a clean cut guy. And again, it's not the most wrong thing, because typically if you're like applying for a job, they usually trust people that typically have a clean shaven face. But lo and behold, it turns out that having facial hair and being, having your hair kind of messy, whatever, actually like makes women more attracted to you. And so, there were other examples where I would try to be a more emotional guy. Again, I grew up around women, so I knew that women wanted to express their feelings. They wanted to be able to talk about things, wanted to be heard. And so, again, as a guy with no kind of role model for this, I'm growing up watching TV and music and hearing things like, men want a guy that's more emotional and talks about their feelings. So I'd be that guy. I'd be the guy that would be like, hey, my dad died when I was young and it just really affected me. And I just made me realize the value of life. And I would try to think of all these various either sob stories or situations where I could really be emotional about things, thinking that this must be what women want because they're telling me that they want a guy that's emotional and a guy that's sensitive. And I'd be that guy. And I get along with women, but it would not attract them. Okay. So I wrote a lot of notes about this today. So you'll see me looking over, I'm looking at notes that I wrote out because I wanted to make sure I got all these points out. But yeah, so these are traits that when I did them, women would want to hang around me and talk to me and thought I was a good guy, but they'd only want to be around me as a friend. I was never that guy that was like giving them the tingles or making them feel attracted to me. Now, while I'm doing all this stuff over here, that is supposed to be, basically being like the safe guy, being the guy that's kind of like, okay, I'm going to communicate with women in their language and they're going to feel some kind of way about me or whatever. I'm in college and in high school observing other men out there that are doing what I will say are stereotypically male-centric behaviors, because that does not mean that all men do them, but as a generality, men are typically displaying these behaviors. And so these men were doing these behaviors that are traditionally masculine. And these are things like they're being loud. They're being very, very opinionated. They're out there doing their own thing and doing what they want without care or consequence of how it might affect others. These are guys that are working out and, they're openly using women specifically for physical interactions. These guys are at times, not all guys, but they're known players. These are guys that are growing out their facial hair, or these are guys that they were groomed in a messy way, like their hair might be in a certain type of like messy style hairstyle. And these are guys that were out there expressing their dominance. And I mean that by like, they're taking over conversations. They're telling women their truth or opinions on things without any kind of apology. They're darn near like running over women saying like, hey, I'm the man and I'm running this thing and I want women to cook for me and all this stuff. And because how society has placed those kind of behaviors, I saw all these as bad. These are bad behaviors. These are jerks that are doing this. These are guys that shouldn't be respected. How dare they do this to women? But these were the women, these are the men that were getting women to chase them. Like the ones that were, I was the guy that grew up in a household where like we didn't cuss, we didn't use, we spoke the king's English, as my mom would say. And yet there are guys out there that are cussing and swearing every other word and drinking and doing all this stuff, and they are getting women. And this is not to say that you need to be that kind of guy specifically, but those behaviors indicate on a subconscious psychological level traits that women do find attractive. Things like strength, things like being your own man, being a leader. And so, and by the way, this was across the board. This wasn't like, it didn't really matter what kind of woman it was. It could be a woman that was a church-going woman, or a wild woman, or a woman in school that got straight A's or was flunking out, or a doctorate woman. It could be a good girl, bad girl, gold digger, feminist woman. Like, it didn't matter what kind of woman it was. They were all ultimately falling for these kind of men and found, or at the very least, even if they weren't trying to date them, they were finding them very, very attractive and alluring, okay? And so as I started to recognize that, I was like, there's a part of the puzzle that I'm missing here, and it's that I'm listening to words that I'm being told that women want, but there are actions that are happening that indicate that they actually want something completely different. And again, it's not just one woman, it's not just two types of women, it's multiple kind of women. And so as I start to look at this, I start to realize that, ultimately I had to change up the way that I thought about this entire dating thing, because the methods that I was doing were just not effective at all. And in order to have a better dating life, obviously I'm like, the common denominator is me. So if all these women are friends of mine and they're cool being around me, but they're not dating me, then there must be things I'm either doing or behaviors that I have or characteristics that I have that are causing them to go away from me. And so as I started to do research, what I realized was that, oh my God, there are actually a bunch of things that I'm doing that are showing more feminine behavior and more feminine traits that if you're trying to attract a straight woman is not going to go well, because most women in those situations want to be the one that is more feminine, that is showing off these traits and being desirable. And they want their man to be the polar opposite. Because, again, for a straight woman trying to date a man, typically they're not trying to find an equal. Just like as guys, we're not openly trying to find like a lot of alpha females that are, pushy and argumentative and stuff like that, because that just is not something that attracts us, So, but here's the thing. Here's where you'll probably trip up in this whole thought and idea, okay? Is that part of the reason that you're having trouble understanding that idea, this whole idea of masculine and feminine, is because if you actually talk to a lot of women about this, like if you ask women on average, what do women want? Well, what I found is that they'll usually give you answers like, well, it depends, because, all women are different and they have their different needs and whatever. And there is a kernel of that is true, because, depending on their emotional or hormonal state for the day or the time of the month or whatever, then there are things that shift in what they need or how much of a particular masculine trait they need to see in order to be attracted to you. But as a general rule, the things that women find attractive and unattractive about men, and the processes that they are most effective in getting women to like you, they are pretty much the same across the board. Okay, and so I came up with this quote a while ago. It's like, the irony of all that is that all women are the same in one important way, and it's that they all believe that they are different. So all women are the same, and that they all think that women are different. Okay, now I want to stress this before any women that are watching this get mad at me. Keep in mind, women call out men all the time about how we're all the same on stuff. Oh, all men want sex, or all men are dogs, or all men, want to play video games, or all men drink whiskey or whatever. And again, there's a level to that is true, because most men, for the most part, they kind of want things in terms of relationships. Like, they usually want like a woman that's not too argumentative, a woman that's going to give them a decent amount of sex, a woman that doesn't complain a lot. Most of the time, men want a woman that's typically shorter than them, knows how to cook. Like, there's a whole bunch of things on that list where it's like, oh, as a generality, most men want these things. And so they don't have a problem calling us out on that in terms of what we want. But, if you go to individual women and try to say that, they'll be like, well, no, because I'm different than the last one. And how dare you say this, whatever. But here's the thing. You have to understand why women are trying to sell you on this idea that they are all individually different, okay? The reason that they're saying this is because they must sell you on this because they feel like in order for you to want to choose them and to continue to choose them and want to remain faithful to them, that you must see them as either better than or different than all the other women you've dated up to this point, okay? Because in their head, if you view them as different, then what are they bringing to the table? What is it that's going to make you want to remain faithful? Because if she's like the others, then by her standard, that means that she's now interchangeable, which means the odds of you staying faithful in her head are going to be lowered. Okay. Now, you know, as a guy, and especially if you're an introverted guy, that's not completely accurate because there's a point where it gets very tiresome to have to keep meeting new women and getting to know them and dating them and betting them and then breaking up and then getting another woman and then trying to get to know her and betting her and dating her and then breaking up. And that gets very tiresome. So as you get older, it's kind of like you go from like, oh, I can have all these women to like, oh, can I just find one? Because having a bunch is a lot of work and I don't want to do all the work. I just want to have the one that I can treat right and take care of and wants to be with me and be good. Okay. So keep that in mind, is that you know that you really don't want to ultimately have all these women in like a harem or something. Some people do, some people like polyamory and stuff like that, and that's fine. I know I personally can't juggle all that amount of attention as an introvert because one is enough. It's a lot to deal with already. But with that said, even though you know this, understand that all women want to feel like they're different than whoever you dated, okay? And we know, after you've dated a few women, you know, they got boobs, they got stuff down there, it all typically feels the same. They'll generally want to be, you know, talk about emotions and feelings and stuff like that. Like the day-to-day of most women in terms of how they act and operate are pretty much the same, okay? And so, but again, your goal has to be to make each individual woman feel as though you're doing things with them that you've never done with another woman, okay? And I cannot begin to tell you, for example, how many times I've hooked up with a woman and at the end she'll be like, oh my God, I've never done this thing like this before. And I'm sitting there thinking like, but I have to now make you think like I've never done this particular act before or done it in a certain place before, or, you know, even with dates, like, oh, I've never taken a girl to this particular restaurant before or in this type of movie date before, like, because they'll all be like, oh my God, this is so new to me. And they're thinking that because it's new to them, that you know this and that therefore you're doing this with her because it's a special thing. But really it's like, but you've been to the same restaurant like 5 times. Like, all the women that I've met online, for example, I've used the same routine every time in terms of like my style of approach to them, the amount of time I wait to be able to actually ask them on the date, the kind of date I take them on. Like, this doesn't change for me, but they need to feel like it's new to them because, again, it needs to make them feel special so they can think that you're treating them different than anybody else, okay? And there's a great quote from Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that my friend likes to quote all the time, which is, a gentleman allows a lady to maintain her fiction. Meaning, if this is how she has to feel in order to get out of her head that you've done this for 5 or 6 other people in order to make her feel more attracted to you, then who are you to ruin that? Who are you to go to her and say, well, actually, I've been to this movie theater like 6 times and I've been on this date like 4 times and you're just another one in the line that I'm trying this on that it happens to work on. Like, you don't want to ruin the fantasy for her because part of her getting to like you is the fantasy of it, you know? And so this correlates to a woman's needs for attraction as well, because spelling out to women that they're all attracted to the same thing, it ruins the idea of each of them being different, okay? So therefore, they're going to subconsciously lie to you most of the time, or at least not give you the full truth about what attracts them. So that's why in general, women will say things like, oh, I need a guy that's like sensitive and blah, 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 because, you know, they want to think that stuff works and that's going to make them stand out from these other women. Oh, I'm not like other women who need muscular guys. I'm not like other women who will do it on the first night. I'm not like other women who fall for X, Y, and Z. I'm like this. But again, they got to say it, okay? And so because they're going to lie to you, this is why you must rely on actual studies and scientific evidence and data and research to